why do you never talk about it?
Well, there's still things I'm trying to figure out. We had a pretty horrific time over there. We lost, dudes, and everyone got hit, and just 3 weeks ago, my battle buddy hung himself, and it's been 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's still something I'm trying to come to terms with, you know what I mean? But I respect what you do greatly, man, and I do respect, this platform that you give everyone. So, yeah, I'm not gonna hide from it, you know what I mean? But I'll know.
We don't need to dwell on it.
Yeah, no, I don't know where to dwell, because what you mentioned before is actually dead on. I do channel a lot into what I do, and to not go there. But I just want you to know I won't deflect. I have a pretty good track record of doing that. So
cool.
I'll give you the respect of having me here and that, and then the cancer and all that crap too.
Yeah, let's just start at the beginning, I guess.
Sure.
You grew up where? In New Jersey?
I grew up in Howell, New Jersey. Yeah.
Mom and dad?
Mom and dad are great. My mother is a preschool teacher. My dad is still a builder, man. He won't stop. He's a contractor, self-taught, put himself through school. He started out as a drywaller when he was 15. And he taught himself how to tape and put himself through school to learn everything about a home, started building homes, additions, and everything. And that was my life. My brother and I were born into it. I was born with work boots on, and that was all I knew.
Your parents are still together?
Yeah, they can't. They complement each other a little too well,
It's great to have that.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky, man. Yeah.
And what kind of teenager were you?
I was a wild kid. I say I'm very lucky because my father, his presence in my life was the wall that I never went past. And I probably did too much regardless, but he's the reason why I walked the line and never crossed it, I should say, because of how and who he was. He's everything to me. He's such an honest, truthful, moral man, which is so rare and so sought out, for a man and to live up to those attributes, which I try to even more now, in my later years. But yeah, he's just a rock, and he still is. Yeah, and he always let me be. My mom too. They always just let me be who I was.
Yeah, parents giving a kid that freedom.
Yeah.
And the respect. It's really respect, I think. Mm-hmm. It makes a kid want to honor that respect, that freedom that they're given.
Yeah.
And make their parents proud.
I do. It's on my mind often, That's one of the goals of my life, just like anybody else, get to a point one day where I could just write him the check and, off to Boca Raton with you. But still going, still on my mind. And yeah, they're very active in my life. Yeah.
That's great. When did the military come into that idea come to you?
I always wanted to be a soldier, but I think I wanted to be I think I wanted to be a soldier for the wrong reasons. I was a dreamer when I was young, and I was always caught up in being something else. Joining the military wasn't so much of me, wanting to be a military man. It was me running through the battlefield with an M16 and taking out the enemies and kind of thing. And regardless, I joined up when I was still a senior in high school. I definitely needed a little direction. They were out by the cafeteria, when they set up in high school, and they're recruiting, and I just signed up. Now, my brother was already in, so I joined the Army National Guard, and so did he. And Tom's River, New Jersey. And my brother was a drill sergeant. He's a year older than me. So I joined up and went home, told my mom, and that was it. So.
And you went overseas.
Yeah, that was in 2004. Yeah.
And where'd you go?
Baghdad. Yeah.
How was that?
That was war, man. There was war. Yeah, nobody thought it was going to be like that. In the National Guard, it was a good bunch of guys. It was a field artillery unit, so it was considered a combat MOS. MOS is military occupation specialty, which is just like saying what's your job in regular life. In military, say what's your MOS. So it was a field artillery unit, and it was all males because it was a combat unit. That's how we trained. So in 2004, they converted all the New Jersey Army National Guard to military police because there was a shortage in Baghdad. So proper military police train up is several months, and you got to forgive me, man. It's been years, it's several months of training. You're training to be a police officer. We all went to Fort Dix in the dead of winter, and we were there for about 5 weeks. And they tried cramming everything in. And then we went to Kuwait City in Kuwait to acclimate a little bit. We went from zero, single digit temperature in Jersey to pretty hot temperatures in Kuwait. And then a week later, we drove throughout the night in the back of cattle trucks and drove into Baghdad. And that was quite the sight, man. The whole sky was orange, because when they took Saddam, they did away with everything. There was not only no rule, but there was no garbage systems. There was no sewage systems. There was nothing in place. So everyone just burned garbage. So at night, when we went in, the guys that we were replacing, that picked us up from Kuwait, said, "You'll know when we're in Baghdad." And we're like, "How are we gonna know?" And like, "You'll smell it." And sure enough, we were driving. The sky was orange, and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh God, what the hell is that smell?" It was horrible. And the guy's like, "Welcome to Baghdad." And we're like, "Oh boy, here we go." It was quiet at first, man. It was quiet at first. We had to replace the other unit, the other company that was there. So what happened was there was 8 MP companies in Baghdad. We were one of them. But of the 8 MP companies, we were the only all-male company. And only National Guard. The other companies were all active duty. There was females. So once we started, getting acclimated, our company was thrown into an area called Sadr City. And we went there because it was a hostile area. This was before a lot of the news, like, Fallujah was heavily publicized. Sadr wasn't. No one really knew about it too much. And they put us in there because we were all males. And there was no females at that time considered like in combat, even though they definitely were. And that was it. We rolled into Sadr City. Our original mission was supposed to be to train and mentor the Iraqi police. We didn't speak Arabic. We didn't know anything about policing. Our train up was so quick. Most of us didn't know how to shoot half the weapons we had. I didn't know how. And we learned quick. We rolled out with 2 Humvees. Everyone else had 3. Our Humvees were not armored. We had no doors or skins, no floors. We had sandbags. And shit started getting crazy pretty quick. So we learned quick, man. And here we were, this, essentially improperly trained field artillery, just a bunch of ragtag guys from New Jersey, all walks of life, from landscapers to postal workers, computer guys, this, that. And we were older than a normal unit. I think the average age in the military is like 22, 23 years old. Everyone usually does 3 to 4 or 6 and they get out. Our average age was like 30, a little over 30. I was 24 at the time. Yeah, and it was quite the road. Unfortunately, we lost a couple wonderful guys who I was friends with. We all were, because we knew each other for years, Everybody got hit. And it was a bad dream, brother. It was a bad dream.
But what do you think of war now that you've actually experienced it? Because when a kid has a fantasy, I want to be a soldier.
Yeah,
that's a very different thing.
Yeah, this is foul. This is ugly and foul, and it's a level of violence that is unfortunate that anyone has to go through. Coming back from that is that's something. You're in combat, and you come back, and it's like no one has any idea what you just experienced, and it's just like kind of being back in Candyland, where a fight before, seeing a fight or being involved in a fight was like this thing before you go to war. When you come back from war, a fist fight is like, it's like a joke, So that level of violence out there and everything, and thank God not everyone has to go through it. You know, there's some dudes that never left the base, but even so, you know, we got mortared on a daily basis. But you just kind of accept it, man. You accept death at a certain point, and that's it. Now, I was an actor before I went in. I had some stuff lined up, and when I got the call, you know, I kind of had a gut feeling.
When did you get the bug for acting?
I got the bug for acting when I came back from boot camp. I went to college. I tried everything. I thought I wanted to be a cop because I just wanted to be like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon. And then I realized how much paperwork was involved once I was going to school. And I took it on a whim. I had this thing about me at a young age. I couldn't figure it out. I was lost, man. I was, like I said, I was a wild kid, but I was always trying something to get that high. I had such manic energy in me, and nothing satisfied it. Not sports, nothing. And while I was in college, I took an acting class on a whim outside of college. I went with a buddy of mine, and that first acting class, something triggered, something hit, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. And then I left college the next day. That was it. Yeah.
So you got back, you kind of pursued acting again?
Yes, but it took a while. It took a while. I didn't know who the hell I was at that point. And I took, even at that time, being an actor very serious, very serious. When I came back from overseas, you try to slip into who you were. You know, you try to go back to what was. I had my group of buddies, my family, and you know, that glove doesn't fit anymore. It was different. I can tell people were on eggshells around me, and I tried to warm up to the idea of just being, you know, Kevin again, but that Kevin was gone. Time helped, really, time, and patient people around me, but I had a pretty rough road out there, and I mean, you know, I'm 20 years later, and I'm still trying to figure things out.
PTSD is real.
Yeah, it is, man. It was hard to accept, to say that. I felt like I was weak admitting that, you know? But the amount of trauma that comes from it, there's a couple people I started talking to a couple years ago. I didn't really feel anything. I didn't notice the effects of it, oddly enough, until my daughter was born 4 years ago. That's when I started to notice something was coming up. Everything was down. When I came home, Mark, you know, they say you put in a lock, you know, throw in a box, lock and key. I did, literally. I threw everything I had on me in a box. I locked it. I kept the journal out there, I think for the first 2 months, and I just couldn't anymore. It was just too much. But that box was lock and key, and it still is. I never went there. I never visited that because I can't function there. That guy that you become out there has no place here. There's levels you go to out there, and it has, like I said, there's no place for that in this life around my parents, around my family, my friends, my daughter. There's no place for it. So I keep it there. And then oddly enough, when my daughter was born, stuff started coming out of me, and I didn't know where the hell it was coming from. I had no idea. So I said, well, maybe it's about time, you know? And it's still pretty raw right now talking to you about it, even though it's been 20 years. And like I just mentioned, I just lost my battle buddy several weeks ago. There's been a few of us from our company that they're not here anymore since being home. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, man. And this lifestyle that I chose, this profession that I chose, this art that I've devoted myself to was my savior, man. Because when I came home and I threw all my clothes out, everything, my dressers, my closets, put in big black construction bags and threw them in the bin. I didn't feel right wearing them anymore. It just wasn't me. And it took me a while to get back into it. And, you know, my dad tried to help, you know, but what could they say? They never experienced that. But when I went back to being, or trying to be an actor again, that's when I started finding myself again, because it is, you know, it's the art of knowing yourself. You know, I didn't laugh at the same things anymore. I didn't cry at the same things. Everything was just different. And my old man, you know, we talk, and we were close, man. We used to work together, you know. We worked together for a long time, until I was 30 years old. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, what do the baseball players do when they have a bad season, you know, at the plate? And I said, what? And he said, they get back and hit off the tee. And I was doing pretty good before I left for Baghdad. Like, things were going, you know. I was on some TV shows and stuff, and I remember saying to him, like, I don't want to hit off the tee, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't want to. I was like there. And he said, well, you do what you got to do, you know? So I did. I went back and I started doing community theater and short films and student films, and found my way through working again. I really found myself through working again, is what it was. So yeah, it's not this relationship I have with being an actor, not the acting industry, that's a business, but just being an actor, I owe it, you know what I mean? I owe it. I love it. I obsess about it. I can't stop if I tried. And I think part of that is deflecting, which I told you I'm a pretty good deflector, but I channel a lot of things into this business.
Well, creativity is very healing.
Very. It also blocks a lot of things out when I keep my focus on it and my mind doesn't go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
Keeps you out of trouble.
It does, man. Yeah. It's wild. There's a 20 years, man. There's a beast in there when you're at war, and when you go to certain extremes, you can't help but judge yourself sometimes. Sorry. Sorry. So that, like I said before, it's I can't function there. There's no place for that. So I keep it at bay. But creatively, the door is open for me to explore, you know, and I channel it into my work. I do.
And your wife and daughter must help too?
Yeah, my wife's an actress. She's brilliant. So, you know, that's how we met out here in LA. And my daughter, yeah, that was boy, she came along, man, and you know, that was just everything. Thought I was ready, holy shit. But I just want to be the best dad I could be, like my father was for me. But I was not expecting all of this stuff to open up when she was born. It could be something as simple as the crying, man, babies crying. I was never really around babies, so I didn't know. I'd never thought twice about a crying child affecting me the way it did. And then I was speaking to a psychologist 2 years ago. I started going, and I had to open up about this stuff. And I was finding things out, Mark. They were coming out of me. I never spoke about any of it to anybody. What was there to talk about, you know? Who am I going to talk to? And things just started pouring out. And one thing about the crying was just something that happened there. To me, it wasn't even like this major event. It was just like an event, a day that we used to go to an orphanage and give MREs. You know what MREs are? No. MREs are packaged meals in the military. They have a 30-year shelf life. So a lot of times soldiers will keep them in their cargo pants or, you know, keep them on them, and you'd always just have them to eat. There's little candies and meals in there. So we'd give them to the kids. So we went to the orphanage one day. There was all these cute little kids running around. And then we left, and, you know, bomb went off, and we turned around, and that was a big one, man. That one felt like a couple times I've bombed. You know, when IED or if you're close enough to an RPG or even a grenade, had a grenade thrown at me one night, depending how close you are, it feels like someone punches you in the chest. Like your whole body kind of freezes up. It's like this involuntary reaction you have to it. That happened that day, and we were far. So we turned around. We came over the radio that the orphanage got lit up. So we went back, and all these little cute kids we'd see running around and everything. Without getting into it, man, it's you can do the math, you know. But I'll never forget the cries, and I just didn't realize it when my daughter was born and she was crying. I couldn't deal with the crying. So there's a lot of things, and like I said, I'm finding my way. So speaking to someone made it make sense to me and kind of forgive myself in a way because of the traumatic experiences we had. It was heavy combat. We were not expecting that, man. We didn't know we were gonna go to war. Like I said, we thought we were gonna go train and mentor Iraqi police, who most of were crooked anyway. Whenever we got in a firefight, because we used to stay on top of the Iraqi police stations and keep patrol, keep them from being overrun by the Mahdi army. It was just before the whole insurgent thing. The traumatic event over and over and over again, you just stop remembering, it just happens. It's like getting in a car accident, an unfortunate fatal car accident or something that happens in your life. You remember it forever. There's a tragic event that would happen overseas when we were there, and it was just, it's crazy shit, man, And that happened on a Monday, and then Wednesday something else would happen, and then Thursday something else, and then Sunday something else, and before you know it, you just start getting like robotic. And you just forget, you just block it out. So that's what happened. And it wasn't until I went with this guy, I started having all these feelings once my daughter was born.
The therapist?
Yeah, all this stuff started coming out, and I was surprising myself because I didn't know where the hell it came from. I just forgot. Or I blocked it, I don't know. But one way or another, man, I gotta say that either way, regardless of the effects on me or any other soldier there, for my own situation, I'm still proud, I'm proud of being there, regardless of what the war was about or what the war was over or why we were there in the first place, which, trust me, we were saying that when we were there too. But, I didn't lose my friends for nothing, So that's my position on that, and I am proud of my time in the military.
Tell me about acting.
Yeah, TV, How to Get Away with Murder, CSI New York, Amsterdam, Pose, Law and Order. Even way back with The Sopranos, I had a little role in The Sopranos. That was fun. That was like the end of fourth season. I played this character named Dogsy. It's short-lived, man. But I was supposed to go back for the fifth season, and the character was supposed to be a lot bigger at that time, and I couldn't do it. Because that's when I got activated to go to war.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Fate.
Right. Toughens you up, man, It was my savior, man. I found myself in those years coming back. It wasn't about making it. It wasn't about success. If anything, I was just so lost that I just needed to keep finding myself. So I worked on anything and everything I possibly could. From the worst short film that I should not have been in. I did a lot of shitty movies, man. And then some stuff, came out all right. But I just was consistent as possible, and it was more about being an actor and finding myself through it, and in the truest expression of being an actor. And I was just obsessed. Loved it, still love it. Can't stop thinking about it if I try. And I was still working through some things. Got into a little trouble in Jersey at one point. And not drugs or anything like that. I got into I was a little too quick in my hands back then, man. So I got into something that I probably shouldn't have, and I got sued by a couple guys, and had a lawyer up and everything, and I was like, I'm not going to bars anymore. And at that point, my brother and my brother worked for the company too, and he's like, why don't you have a go at this? Because I was booking work, but I always had one foot with the family business. You know, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go to New York. I didn't want to go to California, or LA, I should say. And it was tough to leave because at the time, the company was growing, but for a good period of time, it was just me and my dad. And I knew if I had an audition, auditions are quick, man. Hey, how you doing? Let's read some lines. Bing, bang, boom. All right, thank you very much. I'm like, I drove 2 hours to get here for that, you know? And the thought of my dad, you know, swinging a hammer all day long, and I got to leave him if he needs me. So I used to bail on auditions because I didn't want to leave. But it was about that time. I was booking work. I could only go so far. And my brother was like, you got to get the hell out of here. So instead of going to New York, I chose Los Angeles, and that was that. So I went out there like a ball of fire, man, and I had a good first year. Things worked out. I was a working actor. And I realized there was so much downtime. But coming from a family business, you know, a lot of people say like, oh, the military, you know, really trained you up or this. No, it's my dad. It wasn't the military. My dad was tough. And he trained us, man. And even though I was considered a working actor and I had gigs lined up, there's so much downtime as an actor still. And I felt like I had more in me. So I began writing and I began learning how to produce movies and learning that side of the business. And I gave that my everything too. So around that, maybe 2015, 16 is when that started happening too. So I had my acting career and I started writing and simultaneously working on both. And yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm satisfied. I'm never satisfied because I'm always actively seeking moments of fulfillment because I don't think I'll ever be fulfilled. Kind of came to terms with that already, but I'm always on the hunt for it, and I found that an actor's life is very sporadic. We only get so many opportunities to work. So putting all my energy and my efforts into writing and producing as well, and now directing, it really keeps me grounded. It keeps me focused, keeps me walking that straight line, and I really love what I do, regardless of, you know, the struggles accompanied with it. I chose this life, and I'm good with it.
Does having your wife in the same industry help or hurt, or both?
It helps, man. It's great. You know, we audition together because everything's on tape now. So we just have a setup like this, you know, set everything up. And she's wonderful. She's a hell of an actress. So we bounce off each other like that. She tells me I would talk about work too much, which I probably do. But it's okay. We have a good working relationship in that respect as well.
Have you worked together?
We have a few times, yeah. Yeah, a couple movies. We did our first movie that we worked on together in 2017 in a movie called Bad Frank. That was with Tom Sizemore was in that, and Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Remember Boom Boom?
Sure.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. He played my dad. And Brian O'Halloran from Clerks. He's a good dude, Brian. And that movie kind of put me on the map a little bit in the independent world. Because I came up in the indies. I came up grassroots. That was my world. So that's kind of been my bread and butter for the most part, a lot of independent film. So Bad Frank kind of kicked it off. It did well foreign. And then things started climbing from there, from around 2017, yeah.
You're doing something with Kevin Bacon, is that right?
Oh, we did a TV series. So we moved back to New Jersey, and my wife got cast as a series regular in City on a Hill. That's Kevin Bacon, yeah. So while she was doing the first season, I had cancer. So, what am I laughing about?
You got cancer?
Yeah, I had cancer, yeah. I had some wicked pain in my leg for a couple years, and I just, you know, tough guy Kevin didn't want to go to a doctor. Until I came to Jersey, I did. I got misdiagnosed. This idiot doctor kept telling me I had runner's knee because I worked out a lot. And I was like, I don't know, man, the pain's in my thigh. He's like, yeah, you got runner's knee. Just go to physical therapy, and back and forth a couple times. And then finally I got an MRI, and it turned out to be non-Hodgkin's in the bone marrow of my femur bone. And it was very late. So they couldn't do radiation because it was eating through the bones. So I had to do some pretty heavy chemo and to get the port put in and all that stuff. And Yeah, that was a wild road, man. There's some people that say that I beat cancer. I didn't beat cancer, man. I didn't beat cancer. It just went away. All I did was accept what the doctors gave me, and I kept my wits about me, and I was extremely focused in the hospital. I ended up writing a movie while I was there. I did not put a hospital gown on once. I worked out as best I could if I had any energy. Tubes popping out of my chest, blood splurting out. I was an absolute maniac just getting through it, but I didn't beat it because there was people that I was there and people that I know in my personal life, and everyone knows, unfortunately, someone that has dealt with it, and people pass away from it, and that doesn't mean that they didn't fight. And then, so if somebody passes away, unfortunately, from having cancer, does that mean they lost? Oh, I won the battle on cancer? I don't see it like that at all. I was lucky. It wasn't my time. It just wasn't my time. Going through what I went through, with war, I wasn't ready yet. And I knew it just wasn't ready yet. So I had no fear going through that process. I was mad. I was pretty pissed off about it happening out of nowhere. So anyway, I got over that. And once my eyebrows and my hair started growing in again, I had a random audition for City on a Hill, and they gave me a part. So now I'm on the same show as my wife. And then she did 2 seasons, I did 2 seasons, and it was great. And then Gemma was born in between that. So they shot in Brooklyn, even though it took place in mid-90s in Boston. So being in North Jersey at the time, when Amanda was shooting, I would stay home with the crying baby, and vice versa. I had to go to set and she was home. So that was a trip. Yeah, it was cool. Didn't have any scenes together though.
Nothing together.
No. She's a beast on that show. You got to see it. She was great. But yeah, Kevin Bacon was awesome, and Aldis, Matt Del Negro, all those guys, Jill Hennessy. These wonderful people. There's some really wonderful people in this business. I got to say, I'm really, really fortunate. Really fortunate. I didn't talk to you about this yet, but so here's the thing. I have been watching your channel since you started. Your channel has been, whether you realize this or not only influential in my career as an actor, but a constant in my life. I've watched your videos for hours and hours and hours and hours on end, and that's the God to honest truth. Because I, not only for the roles that I play when I actually book a film, which is few and far between, but for all the auditioning. For every role you book, there's a shitload of auditions you have to do, and sometimes I can't touch it. Sometimes I can't, I'm reading a character and I just need a little something to feed from, to feel. And if I can watch someone in real life, which I'm fairly limited, I can't stalk people. Even though sometimes I'll sometimes I follow people a little bit too long just to get that essence from them, That sounded weird. I'm not a stalker, but
no, but I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I've always thought that my videos for actors are one of the best tools ever, because you want to see whether you're looking to play a role as a mobster or a gang member or a psycho or a drug addict or whatever. Right. Or you want to see a sex worker, man, you got your pick of like 75 on my channel. It's
right there. When I played a sex worker, no, I'm just kidding. But
it's like you see the authenticity, the body language, the way they speak.
Yes.
The eye contact, the whole thing.
Yeah, man. And it's a total testament to how you are as an interviewer and the platform you set up, because these people are coming here and they feel so comfortable to be so authentic with you and honest and truthful, and to watch people
even when they're lying.
What's that?
Even when they're lying.
Even when they're lying.
See, that's why I have no trouble. Like, people get upset sometimes when they say somebody's lying, and we know they're lying.
Yeah,
like, if you're
I
smart,
picked it up
you know that these people are lying,
and I'm like, these guys are good liars.
That's
man.
What makes it interesting.
Yeah,
and from my from my side of it, it's like, we know they're lying. Yeah. Just enjoy it.
Right.
That's what makes it all interesting.
Right, and they still go for
People get upset. Oh, this person's clearly lying.
Oh, for Christ! Then get mad at everybody in life.
I had a girl the other day tell me she's 26 years old and her daughter is 18. So whatever. It's like you just let it go.
That's great.
You just let it go. Women lie about their age.
That's great.
Come on.
Oh man, but yeah, it's been a constant in my life. Isn't that interesting? It's like an actor. My goal, I'm totally open with why I do this, is because I want to move and affect and touch as many people as possible. That's just my thing, you know? But you never know who you're affecting. You never know who you're moving. You never know who's watching your work. You don't either. But your channel reaches so many people, man. And yeah.
It's our way of communicating with the world.
Yeah.
As artists, you can't just, like, I'm not a writer and I'm not a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. It's our way of communicating and sharing with the world.
Yeah.
By creating this thing that we think is art. Some people think it's crap, but
no,
for us, it's important.
It is. It is very important, man. And I've been using your art for a very long time, just so you know. So I appreciate.
That's great.
What
I'm flattered,
do, man. Yeah.
No, I think my videos are a perfect tool for an actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Hands down. Hands down.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I don't mind having regrets. I don't, because it doesn't hold me back. I don't get down about it, but I think it keeps me sharp and keeps me aligned for walking the line and being the man I want to be.
Hopefully you learn from them.
Yeah. I crossed the line a couple times, and yeah. It's funny, man, talking about war before. Like I said, I never really got into it too much, and I really didn't get into it too much here. But thinking about it, especially speaking to a therapist about it, I was very hesitant to say anything. I remember the first 3 sessions I didn't talk. I was deflecting very well. I knew a lot about him. He didn't know much about me. And then finally he put his foot down. He said, you gotta start now. And I was nervous because I felt it was incriminating. I felt I was going to be incriminated. That's really what held me back. Once I started thinking about it and things were coming to my mind about just things that were there, things that happened. You got to figure, Mark, like, I expelled more ammo probably in 15 seconds than a police officer does in their entire career, The extremes that go that, the extremes you have to go to protect your buddy, protect yourself. You can't have a normal thought process. When we first started there was this mantra we learned. It was the 5 S's. It was show, shout, shove, shoot, and shoot. So if there was a threat, we were supposed to show them our weapon, shout, if they came close, shove, warning shot, shoot, and then if by some chance something escalated from there, you end it, you shoot. That was over in about a month. That was it. It's a really crazy feeling knowing when you have a weapon on you. You go through these transitions, man. You have a loaded weapon, unsafe, and then you switch it to semi when you know it's coming. And then you can identify the enemies, aiming at you. And then you raise your weapon to actually, with intent, to use on someone. Just that in itself is it's a wild place to be. You know what I mean? When you actually have a person in your sights. And then after a while, that's just absolutely insignificant, It just goes from there. So regardless of all that stuff, man, I'm dealing with it. I'd like to say I'm dealing with it in a healthy way. I have a pretty good career right now, and I'm looking forward to what's in front of me. And I'll continue to deal with that the best I can, And I do like to channel it into what I do in certain respects,
Some of your roles have been pretty dark, right?
Yeah.
Is that somewhat a product of what you went through in Iraq?
I don't know, man.
Or is it just always, you're just Italian?
Hey, I knew that was coming.
From New Jersey?
Yeah, I'm Italian from Jersey, yeah. I grew up around violence. To me, it's not that big of a deal. You know, when I was young, my father took me on the job sites and...
I mean, the world is fascinated with violence.
Yeah, it's true, you know, and I am too, you know. Just because I'm an artist doesn't mean that I'm not attracted to violence. There's something about violence that intrigues me, because violence or an act of a fight, it's kind of like acting, because you have two people with full intentions going at each other, and you don't know what the other person's gonna do. I mean, you share the screen with someone, with a good actor, you don't know what's gonna happen in the scene. Even though there's a script, you don't know. And that's when magic happens. That's where moments happen, you know? There's something about fighting that equates to that. Maybe I'll write a book on acting. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah.
The fight of acting. I'll get a forward from you and we'll just, we'll put it out there.
There we go.
But yeah, I was brought up around violence. My father took me to all the job sites when I was a kid. I remember all the developments and all the sheetrockers. The sheetrockers are like the badasses back then, you know? There's these tough dudes hanging rock. All you heard was hammers hammering in all the houses and everything. And these guys were, you know, they're all scrappers, man. Everyone was always getting into fights, this and that. And I was a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid going to work with my dad, and I see guys with black eyes, this and that, busted hands, and I was like, oh, he's still, you know, I looked up to my dad, but I looked up to them. That's what I was around, these men, you know what I mean? Who got into a fight and who's scrapping, who just got cut with a knife and all this stuff. And I was around it at a young age. My father, he showed me life, man. He's like, this, you know, he's like, get ready. Life ain't easy, kiddo. And he had a rough one, my dad. So being around that was interesting at a very young age. So I was intrigued by that masculine nature, violence. Yeah, I saw a lot too at a young age. And what's funny too is I had a lot of people leave. You know, these guys I looked up to, they were not the most savory characters. These guys right out of jail who had a dope problem, who was on crack, who was an alcoholic, who was always back and forth in jail for beating on this one. So everyone had a thing, you know, they're laborers. And I got to know all of them. And then one way or another, they all found their way out of my life too. When you're a kid, you don't see the wrong in anybody. You see the truth, you see the good. That's kind of how I equate to playing characters. People may say I play brutal, you know, violent people or roles, but I don't see that. I don't see it at all. I don't judge anybody I play. I see the truth and I see the goodness, because you can have a complete asshole, you know, standing next to you one second, but if he goes home and he's just a sweetheart to his mom, there's always some kind of sensibility there. So that is what attracts me. You know, finding out the real truth of that person. And yeah, I was around these guys, and then eventually who steals from my dad, or, you know, who gets messed up on the job, you know, we got to fire him. So it was kind of a hit when I was growing up. These guys were just kind of like circulated in my life. And then eventually I just stopped getting close to people because of that. I actually had a realization of it, of they're just gonna leave. Everyone's just gonna go anyway. So fuck it.
Was the fact that your brother was in the military, do you guys have stories to share, or does that help you at all?
Dennis didn't go overseas.
Oh, he didn't go overseas?
No, he stayed here. Dennis was, if you had to put me next to my brother at the time, Dennis was the soldier. My brother was squared away, high rank, climbed the ranks quick. His boots were mirrors. And there's me, you know, hanging out, hair long, messed up uniform. Of the two, Dennis, on paper, would have been the better candidate to go serve our country than me. Like I said, I was a wild kid even when I was serving in the military. But there's something that clicked for me out there. This is a weird thing too, man. Something clicked for me out there. And it was like the first time I was really, really good at something. That's what freaked me out. I was really good at it. I always wanted to be good, and I think that's what happened, you know, what what hooked me on it, man. Because growing up, I played a lot of sports. I was always good. I was athletic, you know. I boxed, wrestled, football, this, that. And I was always good, but I was never great. When I was over there, I was on point. Something clicked. And looking back, I'm glad I did not pursue it, because I had thoughts of coming home and going active duty and being a ranger and everything, but I just chose not to. Yeah. And I channeled my energy into what I do, man.
What do you have coming up with your career?
I just had 3 movies come out. Once COVID hit, the idea of not working drove me absolutely insane. And I had this little 4-month-old baby, man. So that daddy protector responsibility thing was just on my shoulders so heavily, and I said, I gotta do something. So I ended up cranking out. I wrote three movies pretty quick. One was called The Bastard Sons, one was called Malicious, and one is called St. Michael of the City. St. Michael was very dear to me. I'm not a very religious man. I'm not. But I did have, not this exact one. Am I wearing it? Yeah, I am. But I had a St. Michael charm in the buttstock of my M16 when I was over there the whole time. Oddly enough, I was not praying much over there. You ever hear the term, there's no atheists in foxholes? You never heard that?
No.
It goes back to, I think, the Vietnam era, or maybe even prior. But usually before we went on missions, the missions were pretty heavy. We didn't know if we were going to come back from them. And usually the chaplain came over for our company. No one else's company, just ours, made everyone take a knee. And I have vivid memories of looking at everyone, the backs of everybody's head, because I would never give in to that. I just knew I wasn't going to go. I knew it wasn't my time. I just knew I wasn't. But St. Michael of the City was close to me. So I wrote all 3. I produced all 3. I acted in all 3. And I directed The Bastard Sons. It was my first one. That was a trip. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot because it felt like taking on a role that I want to as an actor that lasted for 2 years. You know, as an actor, you're a spoke in the wheel. You're in and out. You know, you do your thing no matter how full or heavy the role is. But directing, boy, I got to sink my teeth into every creative aspect of that movie as a whole. So that endurance, that longevity of that role was really interesting. And now we're this close to finishing funding for my next one I wrote called Dirty Hands. Yes, Mark, it's a violent movie, I'm not gonna lie. And we're shooting in Chicago in October. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
Kevin, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
That sometimes you have to be consciously delusional to really see yourself get there. I say you got to be consciously delusional.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Kevin Interdonato, thank you so much.
Thanks for saying my name correctly, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, Italian names are tough sometimes.
All right, bro.
Thanks, man.